This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, Adam Murray here, on behalf of the NBA team, along with Andrew Riche. This is part 9, the final part. We get our last 3 teams in, and then, if you skip ahead, or why would you want to skip ahead? Who are we kidding? But in the last 10 minutes or so, we go over the top 5 or 6 picks, I don't remember how many, of the NBA draft. We were going to do a draft preview, however, we sort of ran out of time because I am heading out of the country, as I once in a while tend to do. So it'd be kind of hard to tell my wife, hey, honey, this is great, but I'm going to lock myself in the hotel room for 2 hours so we could talk college basketball. You know what? You go out and enjoy this country. Doesn't matter you don't speak a lick of their language. It's cool. I got it. Just going to hunker down. I need to talk some mid-major prospects that won't be drafted with Andrew. But again, this is the final part. We thank you for listening. We had fun with this one. This one was this whole process. It was something different. Like, we never thought we'd be talking about the players that we did. It was just always skip through. Just go, okay, we're already an hour in. We're 5 teams deep. Okay, we got to keep it moving. This time we were able to sit back, talk, have a little discussion, get a couple bullet points in, as opposed to, hey, they too have a basketball team. They suck. They need to get better. So we'll be off for the summer again. We'll be back. We know LeBron's not going to make his choice anytime soon. Day 1 of free agency is going to be all lots of nothing, because all the people are going to sign, they're people who aren't really contenders anyways, because everybody's going to wait for LeBron to move, then all the dominoes are going to fall from there. So probably mid-July, July 15-ish, we expect to be back with some sort of free agency / draft recap. And then with that being said, enjoy the summer. Have a good one.
Pistons fans, clap your hands and stomp your feet. Once again, it's time to meet and greet the boss who represent the Detroit Pistons. Our first of all, the one-time 6'10" former Oklahoma Sooner, making his first appearance on the Pistons court. He is the 5-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA performer. Time to put your hands together for the new Piston to see. Number 23, this is Blake Griffin. Give him a big Detroit welcome.
And that was the Stan Van era in a nutshell, Adam Murray's, because we're now talking about the Detroit Pistons, but it's a little bit of post-mortem because Stan Van Gundy, who is the president and the head coach of the Pistons for, about 4 seasons or 3 seasons?
Too many?
Too many. Well, he's out. But the thing, I had a feeling that there was a possibility he could actually stay as the coach but have his presidency removed, kind of like Doc Rivers did. But it just didn't happen. That
was strange. Like, there were rumors like he refused to do that, and he's like, I totally would have done that, but the owners didn't want it. And nobody's, you'll never get the full truth from the full story from anybody, but it was just one of those things. Okay, we got it. We understood his strategy. He's not a free agent destination, so you have to overpay for the people you want. And then, but a lot of
he said, she said.
But the problem with that is, with your overpaying people, you have to get people who are good, and his free agents are always just, we guess they're good. He's overpaying them for some reason, but they never fit. And then, he went all in with Blake Griffin. It didn't work as sort of we all expected, and then you live with Blake, you die by Blake. You were talking about some of the moves that he made leading up to the Blake trade. I guess you're alluding to John Lure with the $10 million per year for 4 years, which, I don't even know if he played last year. Well,
if so,
Lure, you signed Jody Meeks to $6 million, or Langston Galloway. Jody Meeks had a big contract.
Galloway stands out. Yeah.
Boban, you overpaid because he was a replacement for Aaron Baines. It's just everything of mystery signings that never fit in. And, the Avery Bradley thing, I don't know whose fault it was that Avery crapped out, but that probably would have helped him if he was...
It's unbelievable. Like, the Celtics basically got 50 cents on the dollar and won the trade,
Well, Marcus Morris, huge asset for the team. Avery Bradley just becomes a corpse. It's just... the team didn't care. The city didn't care. It was just a lot of meh all around.
And then it turned into strife after the Blake Griffin trade. Now, Blake Griffin, we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show. At full health, Blake Griffin is a really good player. He's a guy that you could probably build a franchise around. Health, though, has always been a huge concern for Griffin. And the fact is, his athleticism has slowly left him, which is sort of what made him great. He just kicked into his new contract that he had originally extended with the Clippers, and that is a ballooning contract that goes all the way to 2022. So you got to make this work between him and Andre Drummond, who's also on close to max money all the way until 2021. So, the other problem with it is right behind him is Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson is pumping out, like teen million salary type of money. So it's not like...
Well, here's the thing. There's two things. Number one, what's killing them, they still have 2 years of stretched Josh Smith left. That's a problem. That
was a stand decision, yes.
Number two, this isn't a bad team. Blake and Drummond and, Stanley Johnson was improving. And
they won 5 in a row after the trade.
They played all bad teams. The problem is they don't have a shooter, and then, we drafted Luke Kennard over Donovan Mitchell. Whoops.
Yeah.
And then, they just make bad drafting decisions. But this isn't a terrible team. So, it looks like it's going to be Dwayne Casey's job, or probably by the time this comes out, it is Dwayne Casey's job. Which
John Beilein interview, but he's not going to take the job. Thank God.
Yes, I guess for all the one and dones in Michigan, but
well, let me say this as the sidetrack for the Beilein thing. I guess it was one of those things where his agent said, "Look, this is your second national title game appearance. Your stock will never be higher. Give it a try." And he gave it a try with the interview and said, "Nah, not interested."
Well, no, the thing is, he gave it a try the interview. He had a follow-up interview. Then he had a meeting with the ownership. So
yes.
There's some seriousness at that level, but it probably, it's one of those things. But Dwayne Casey, for what you could say about him in Toronto, he knows how to deal with two big men sets. Mm-hmm. So that's not a terrible coaching hire.
But he was also on a team where the primary source of the offense were guards, and that's definitely not going to be the case here in Detroit. It's in the front court.
Exactly, but I'm saying he knows. It's not like you're getting some, the Golden State assistant who has no clue what a big man is, or the Budenholzer just we'll just shoot threes. We don't care who you are. You got somebody who knows a traditional slow down Detroit style. So
and balance, trying to make because the thing that's really bogged down Stan Van Gundy's Detroit Pistons over the years was their offense was just not very good. They got better at three-point shooting this season, but they were in the bottom pretty much every year that he was in charge. Defensively, they're good, but they're not as good as you would think because of Drummond. Drummond's more of like he's not even a block shot type of guy. He's more of a steals guy, and he's a phenomenal rebounder. He averaged 16 rebounds a game, but he's just this has been the biggest gripe with Drummond is that he's just not as assertive as you would like to believe he is.
And with the basketball going away from the traditional big man, he hasn't developed that 3-point shot yet. So he's sort of an aging dinosaur, even though he's still putting up massively good numbers. It's just one of these things where that tandem can work. We've seen it. We had the same questions, if I recall, last year with can Boogie and AD play together. Now all of a sudden, can Blake and Drum play? Yeah, well, they can. It's just you need to find some sort of happy medium. And it's one of those, like we said before, that style, you can beat down the softer finesse teams like the Celtics who have no inside presence. Okay, you just go big on them the entire time. Bam, their whole team gets in foul trouble. So they do have, like I said, they're not a terrible team. They're in that mediocrity. They're going to be the 9th, 10th seed for a while, but just you need good drafting and you need shooting, which they're elusive. They're just like allergic to 3-point shooters.
And because of their top-heavy salary system, they're basically cap-strapped, like you alluded to. They're almost exactly the same in terms of the salary that they had going in, which means you're going to be losing a lot of contracts, yet you're taking on almost equal salary. So buy Dwight Bikes, buy Anthony Tolliver. I mean, a lot of these guys honestly will probably not be missed, but you have a lot of guys that are kind of taking up spots, like we mentioned Lure. Henry Ellenson is another rookie who's on guarantee money that just hasn't really – hasn't cut the mustard. I do think Ish Smith is a good backup point guard in the NBA. So I thought that was actually a solid signing.
Oh yeah, he's a solid backup who, unfortunately, is forced to play starters minutes because Jackson can't stay healthy ever.
No. And then there's Stanley Johnson, like you mentioned. He sort of fit in as a 6-man at times. I don't remember him starting really ever this year. His restricted free agency comes up next summer. I don't know what's the situation with him. I don't know if it's going to be one of these Gorgie Jang situations where Detroit's ownership sort of talks themselves into re-signing him as like a core guy and they overpay him to stick around. But he just hasn't made that leap yet. You see some moments where he looks good, but then you see a lot of he's okay, but it's just no upward trajectory. It's almost like he's sort of plateaued after year 2. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it could be one of those, okay, you have a new coach and you have a chance to start thriving, but it just comes down, I guess in the end it was a good thing you didn't max out or give tons of money to Caldwell Pope because he really didn't do anything, so they sort of got out of that.
Which they were ready to do.
It's funny. We're going to give him a max deal. Oh, no, we're just going to straight up cut him. Wow, that's a big swing of the pendulum.
And let me say this, too. Everybody forgets this because they say, oh, look at all this cataclysm that happened after the Blake trade with the team sort of going downhill at the end of the year and Stam getting fired. The Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Drummond combo wasn't really working out that well anyway. Like they did have to make a change in order to see what they were capable of with another fresh name in the mix. The problem is with Griffin, obviously, is the health and the salary that balloons after 2020. That's when you're really in trouble.
Yeah, it's they have their work cut out for them, but I'd rather I think, again, it comes down to if Blake can stay healthy, but if they just don't do, again, you don't do stupid Stan Van things and give tons of money to bench players, and then I don't know. I guess what it comes down to, I'm trying to find excuses, but this team just never stayed healthy ever. And
no,
it's
that's
kind of
always
hard.
been an issue. I mean, Blake only played 25 games for him.
Yeah, and every year it's Reggie Jackson, wouldn't he be something if he wasn't hurt all the time? But he's always hurt.
45 games.
So is he, is like one of those, was he a good point guard? Not really. He's not upper echelon, but we don't know how good he is because he can never stay healthy. It's just...
Let's just kind of go scan by the roster before we get out of here with the Pistons. Reggie Bullock, restricted free agent. He was valuable as a 3-point shooter. Seemed to sort of fit there better than any other destination he was before then. But I don't think he's going to be back. I think he'll. They
have no money for anybody. You said
that's why. That's the
so you could say everybody.
Bikes is out. Tolliver's out. I think they're going to try their damnedest to trade John Lure, but that's going to be really, really hard unless another team can get a medical exemption. Langston Galloway, I think he's sort of stuck there. I don't think you can really move that contract.
You paid him a ton of money, and it's like, oh, he's okay, I guess. But again, there's just a lot of just okay meh coming from Detroit.
Yeah, I think Eric Moreland's okay. If you need a backup center, he's there. He's a big body. And then you got Smith, whose contract comes up after next year.
Well, they have too many big bodies.
Yeah.
You just mentioned Lure. You mentioned Ellenson. You mentioned Moreland. You mentioned Drummond. You got Blake Griffin. You got two. You need to trade. You need to get smaller people. Smaller shooters.
Well, also, getting rid of Caldwell Pope got rid of that dilemma of should we try to extend them and overpay, but it left you without a wing for basically the entire season after you traded Tobias Harris. So it's like, you're sort of screwing yourself either way. I mean, Stanley Johnson's still there, but we've already gone into detail about why we have some issues with that. Kennard, I think, will wind up being a good player. I don't think that's one of those, oh man, we really blew it by not drafting Mitchell type of things.
It's already one of those things.
We'll see. The thing is, like, can they improve? If they can get a full season out of Griffin, absolutely. That's a winning team in the Eastern Conference.
But that's a problem. They need everybody to stay healthy, which we haven't seen yet.
Nope. You haven't seen that at all. But it'll be an interesting team. It was just very, like I said, the only thing that's sort of disappointing until the trade happened, the whole Stan Van Gundy era, like you said, was just very blah. Nothing really stood out. No real risks were taken until that trade, and here we are. We're starting over.
Starting over with a really exciting coach. Not blah at all. Well, we shall see.
12 tonight, has missed all 5 of his threes. Has 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Here comes Leonard. Ntilikina there, and Kawhi banks it up and in.
Yeah, well, Kawhi just played the passing lane perfectly, and he's going to try to create the contact and makes the shot even more difficult. Somehow gets
the San Antonio Spurs. They are the beacon of consistency and greatness on a year-to-year basis, Adam Murray, but this year was not so great.
Something is weird in the water down there because it started last year. Remember Aldridge wanted out and they had to talk him back in? And then just after that, just one thing after the next, and Kawhi's whole mystery, which we've gone into it ad nauseum. We don't need to get into it again. But it didn't make much sense. And then
it's hard. It's one of those things where you don't want to get into it again, but it's just hard not to. Like, the one that still hangs with me was the players only meeting where they begged Kawhi to stop sitting out games because he wasn't that hurt. That was probably the weirdest story I heard in the entire NBA this season. A players only meeting begging a player to stop faking an injury is basically what it was.
Yeah, and then, the whole thing comes, to wrap it up. He wants to listen to his medical team. The Spurs wants him to listen to their medical team. So you have to sort of side with the player of.
If he feels his body's not right, then it's better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah,
I guess it's sort of the Andrew Luck situation, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
Do you want to come back, super fast and be at 90% and then ruin your career? Or do you want to, like you said, with money on the table, and you don't want to give some away by coming back too soon to, they knew they weren't going to win a championship this year. Everybody sort of knew it was a 2-horse race, and if you're going in with Tony Parker, who's so past everything, and Ginobili, who's just there on the Nick Collison provision at this point.
That's true, but I will say this. Kawhi Leonard, when it comes to the Spurs and even LeBron's teams, he's the magic potion. Like, that's the one guy that those teams, because of his size at the wing spot and his ability to play both ways, that they just do not have an answer for him. Like, that was the one time I felt like with the Warriors since KD got there, where I was like, oh, wow, the Spurs might have their number here. And then Kawhi Leonard got injured on the Zaza Pachulia, Bruce Bowen play. That's all I can call it,
And that's the thing is, if he comes back and he doesn't have that elusiveness, if he's just another good player and they figure him out.
He played 9 games, but he definitely didn't look right. So maybe that's something where I cannot imagine that Kawhi was cunning enough to loaf out 9 games as a way of just trying to make the Spurs think that something was wrong with him and there's nothing wrong. He can't be that devious. There's just no way.
Or you have to be so good at faking it because everything just looked off on him.
So good at faking it, huh? Okay. The thing about LaMarcus Aldridge is, yes, he had that come to Jesus moment with Greg Popovich. Now, this is also bookmarked by the fact that Greg Popovich had a terrible loss where his wife passed away right as the playoffs began. So they actually Torrey Messina had to step in and coach the Spurs without him in the playoffs, which was very unfortunate. Nobody likes hearing a story like that. But at the before we got to the season, the LaMarcus Aldridge basically needed a pep talk about we brought you in to be a fixture on this team, and everyone was like, oh, it seems like LaMarcus is happy again. It seems like he's getting it seems like he's getting a shine. Well, I'll tell you what it is. He was the man on that team. Everybody's happy when they're getting the minutes and they're getting the playing time and they feel like they're a part of something, even if it's like Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. I don't think Russell Westbrook is super disappointed that he's getting knocked out in the first round every year. I think he likes being the man. And maybe LaMarcus is just one of those people too.
He gave up everything in Portland to come down there, and it was sort of, they not a bait and switch, but...
Well, here's the thing. Look who was in that room. It was Ginobili, Parker, and Tim Duncan and Popovich with the rings on the table telling them, you need to come here. A year later, the key figure there, in my opinion, not Popovich, Duncan, is gone. And then Ginobili, who still played okay, his numbers were 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Tony Parker has fallen completely off the rails. Like, he played 55 games, but his effectiveness is like completely disappeared.
And if you're relying on old man Pau Gasol to do anything...
Well, what I don't understand about Gasol was the salary they gave him, which gave him no room to re-sign Jonathan Simmons, because they had already decided early on in the free agency process to extend Patty Mills. And that's fine. Patty Mills is a good player. He earned his keep. He's not even 30 years old yet. But if you're going to re-sign Patty Mills, you should have just let Parker walk.
Well, I think it's one of the things they had their roster set, and they had no intention of re-signing Simmons, so let's just give him this money as sort of a bookmark, just as a placeholder. So if we can trade, we can make these deals with other teams.
Outside of that, they made that signing with Rudy Gay. He played about 57 games, 11 points. Like you said, just sort of a mess season. But they needed a wing to fill in that role. It's almost like, remember when they got old man Richard Jefferson to come in 2010 or 2009, and he was there, but he didn't really do much. That's kind of like what Rudy Gay did.
Yeah, and they're at the point now. Well, number one, they have no assistant coaches left because.
They're all gone. James Borrego. I know I'm missing a couple of others. Help me out here. Who's the other one that got snatched out of San Antonio?
Oh, you got Atkinson. You got Budenholzer. You got.
Well, I mean, that's like the one who I'm shocked is still there is Ime Udoka, a former player of Pops. I thought he'd be gone by now.
He's also getting interviews, so he's probably 1 year away. And
the shooting coach guy was kind of considered for. I know he hates being called the shooting coach, but do you remember his name? Oh God!
No, even Becky Hammond's getting some looks at interviews now.
Yeah. Which one were they considered for her? The Bucks for a second.
Yeah, the Bucks, and nothing. Oh, she's a woman again. No, it's just she's been an assistant coach. You have these other guys who've been there for years, and she was only there for a couple years, so that was just more of get the experience guy, not the.
And we thought Messina would be that first foreign coach to be a head coach, but it wound up going to Kokoskov and with the Suns. Let's talk about the young guys that are sort of down the line. And I don't want to say they're going to be building up to being in the core because I don't know if all of them are going to make the cut, but I like some of them. Bryn Forbes, as a shooter, he I don't want to say he plateaued because he's still 24, but he averaged about 7 points a game. He didn't really do much outside of just being a shooter.
He didn't do much. Just talking about just people didn't do much. Danny Green, who was like, I think I'm worth that $10 million a year.
Oh, he will opt in.
But he just didn't live up to anything and just became a.
Which is such a shame because for the 2013-14 squad that went to those two finals, he was such a key piece.
Valuable. And then I guess he's like, I think I'm worth $10 million. He's playing like a $10 million guy. Problem is, $10 million isn't much in the NBA anymore. So.
The interesting ones are one is a restricted free agent and one just got there. Kyle Anderson, I wouldn't call him like a most improved player candidate, but he was pretty good. He showed some signs. He's got that slow-mo style that that's been coined with him since he was coming out of high school. But he's a nice player. He seems like one of those jack of all trade guys. The other is DeJounte Murray, who I'm high on.
Oh, he was a steal in the 26th pick, 25th.
Very late. Yeah, he was so young and he couldn't shoot.
Well, that was the problem. He couldn't do anything in Washington, and just going off athleticism. But well, if you have time to coach a player, that's what happens. You develop, and then you learn your skills, and then we practice fundamentals as opposed to go have a dunk contest.
But I could see almost a Jonathan Simmons situation here, especially with the salary structure at the top, where Kyle Anderson might get overpaid and he walks.
Well, I don't think so, because they need to. This is a very old team right now, and like we said, we're having Gasol and Parker and Ginobili. That money's going to be freed up really soon, so you need to have replacements for them.
What do they have to do to fix their offense? Because it doesn't. I think we're at a point where you can officially say, yes, the Spurs do need like something wholesale done for them on one side of the ball, and that's definitely offense.
There's nothing you could do. All you could change is personnel. They don't have
like can you get like this is just pie in the sky, but like a Kyle Korver, like a JJ Redick, and then maybe get like another wing who can shoot a little bit, like Wilson Chandler, like maybe just kind of get infuse a little bit more offense in there.
Well, the problem is they went in with Rudy Gay last year, who didn't fit the team at all. So yes, they kind of do need to sort of modify their style, but you can't do it to get rid of Ginobili and Parker.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to do it to sacrifice their defense because they value that so much over the years. Davis Bertans, I think he's going to be in the mix. I think they're going to re-sign him.
I liked him, but we shall see.
He's very athletic. He's a sneaky athletic player. I'll say that. Derek White didn't really show much. 3 points, 1.5 rebound. I mean, he's not going anywhere. He's got first round money on him, I believe. So he's one of those guys that you just hope works out.
Yeah, and that's the problem with San Antonio. It's like, yeah, they're good. They're going to be a number 3 or 4 seed, but your ceiling is sort of you're on the decline.
We said the same thing last year, but then there was Kyle Anderson and DeJounte Murray playing significant minutes because of the Tony Parker injury and then the Kawhi Leonard injury. So you got to rely on these guys eventually. Have we seen the last of Manu Ginobili?
Possible, most likely.
The 40-year-old Argentinian.
He didn't have anything really left in him. But, they were above the pack, and now the pack has caught up to them, and they're just, I think if they don't do something, they're just going to get devoured.
But here's the thing with R.C. Buford and company. Like, that's not their style. They're sort of the team that always sort of hangs back, and they always have another trick up their sleeve to sort of either stay relevant or to add something to the mix to sort of bridge the gap to whenever they have to make up
their trick
decision.
Up their sleeve is Gasol and Rudy Gay. That was their last trick.
Well, Rudy Gay has a player option at $8 million. He could just turn it down and walk away. Wasn't that one of the accusatory things with Pau Gasol when he turned down his player option? Because a lot of people thought, oh, I see what he's going to do. He's going to sign for less to try to make the cap work. Well, that obviously didn't happen. He re-signed for even more money, and people couldn't believe it at age 37.
We never thought we'd say it, but interesting times in San Antonio.
Yeah, not very, very tough. And the Kawhi Leonard saga will not end unless he signs a big contract.
9 by Chalmers, blocked by Gasol. Grizzlies 3-on-2 if they hurry. Brooks lays it in against Blake Griffin.
The Memphis Grizzlies. Wow, how 1 year changes things.
It's just how one owner sort of changes things. You go from, okay, the grit and grind era is over, and then all of a sudden you choose Gasol over your coach, and then you wonder why your team is terrible when you have your star Connolly's out. Gasol, he is who he is, and then just nothing else around him, and you're playing G League All-Stars in the rest of the 3 positions because Jermichael Green's out for part of the season. You have Chandler Parsons, who never probably will be healthy again. Your Tyreek Evans and Ben McLemore were your big signings to put you over the top. I don't know what the ownership was thinking, what their expectations were. I get it. You've been the 6th seed for how many years, but I just don't know why they couldn't blow it up.
Yeah, well, let's try to solidify the timeline for just a little bit. They had done well with Gasol and Conley sort of leading the way for the playoff run when David Fizdale was there. Conley goes out with an injury, and it just all fell apart with Marc Gasol having disagreements with the coach, and as you had mentioned, Dave Fizdale wound up getting fired. Above all of this was the tumultuousness of the fact that there was like, I don't want to call it like open enrollment, but there was like an opening in the agreement in terms of ownership where one owner, the minority or the majority owner could buy out the other. So there was this sort of push and pull over Robert Pear was even going to keep the team. He wound up keeping them anyway. But there was that little bit of up in the air like attitude of I don't even know what's going on with their ownership, so no one knows what decision is going to be made. The decision that wound up being made, despite a 22-60 season, was that J.B. Bickerstaff, who was the interim for the second time because he had done it with the Rockets before, he got retained, so he's going to be the head coach going forward. Did you like that decision?
He was picked up because they liked the way he developed the young players. Which is
guys like Jarrell Martin, I guess, Deontay Davis, and people
Ivan
like that.
Rabb, and it's just sort of a slap in the face of we're going to hire you because you developed the young guys, but we had to get rid of Fizdale because we thought we could make a playoff run under him. Mm-hmm. Like how does that happen? Where go ahead, play all your second round picks and play these G League All Stars 30 minutes a night. Well, of course, yeah. If you're playing them, they're eventually gonna look at Yogi Ferrell in Dallas. He gave him 30 minutes. Okay, yeah, he could score 15, 20 points a night.
Look. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to poo-poo on our guy Just Rosero, who's a Province Friar for life, but Marshawn Brooks wound up playing like 7 games, and he averaged 20 points per game.
Yeah, and when he came back from China, and they're like, "Wow, where was he?" And you had Tyreek Evans, who became untouchable. Well, we need to sit him because we can't have him get hurt because we might get something for him. And
yes, exactly. And that actually turned out to be a mistake. So
and the Ben McLemore experience is kind of over. I think we could.
Well, he's back for another. He's back for another year unless they buy him out.
Is he on? I thought he was on a team option, or he had partial guarantee or something.
Well, I mean, it's possible. But the one thing that made me laugh was that they had to get James Ennis for the mid-level exception, and they wound up trading him to the Pistons anyway. So the thing that is kind of a problem with the Grizzlies is that they're kind of capped out. Am I right?
Yeah, that Chandler Parsons deal really sort of did screw them.
Yes. And I mean Conley's going to be one of the 5 or 10 richest players in the NBA by the time we get to 2021. So it's like, I mean, and listen, I like Mike Conley. The fact that he went down ruined the team.
He went down with those injuries are now sort of becoming a concern with that big contract and all.
Yes.
But I guess what my point comes down to with them is when you're relying on Kobe Simmons to lead you the last 20 games of the season. And like, well, he wasn't completely horrendous. We didn't lose by 60, so you must be good, Bickerstaff. That's just sort of lazy. We don't want to try to find anybody.
Yeah, I think they found somebody in Wayne Selden. Like, I think he'll be sticking around, unless I'm totally missing the boat and they already cut him and I didn't even realize it.
Wayne Selden, that's the guy you're going to back up?
I need something here. It's either him or Dylan Brooks, the rookie out of Oregon.
Dylan Brooks was good. Ivan Rabb, but he got on the court, like I said, the last few games, and
Brooks had a 36-point game. So the only problem is he was like it was one of those weird stats I picked up. He was one of the heaviest foulers. Like he fouled. No one had more fouls committed than he did.
Yeah, and then trading a 2019 first pick for Deontay Davis, and he developing slow. They realize he can't play at all, so
yeah, that's an albatross because that's I believe that's like one of those picks that Boston's going to snag next year. That a lot of people are thinking is going to wind up being a high pick that Memphis won't be able to use. So there was this obsession with they have to make it work with this pick coming up at number 4 that they got in the lottery because they're not going to have one next year. So there's even more emphasis on making sure they get this one right.
Which is good luck with that. It's going to be a lot of riding on it. And
number 4 is not a bad spot. I mean,
No,
you
it's
can
not
get
a
a
bad spot, but
Wamba
it's just
there. You could get a Michael Porter Jr. there. Like, you can get a good player there.
The expectations based upon, what management and ownership has said are really not, like I said, not realistic. So if you're thinking like you can make yourself back in the playoff run, you can't implode and you can't get better. They're stuck in just this bad place right now.
Does Tyreek Evans resign there kind of on a cap-friendly deal, sort of the same vein that Lou Williams did with the Clippers?
No, because he can go elsewhere.
Yeah, but will he be able to do what he did in Memphis? I mean, he was a looter and a riot in Memphis.
But he was also just on a bad team, so he could somebody has to score those points.
Is Chandler Parsons in any way, shape, or form either tradable or able to make a comeback?
No.
You think his knee is shot?
Yeah, I think everything is shot on him. They tried desperately last year, limiting him to 25 minutes, no back-to-backs, and he still crapped out.
This is going to sound funny on paper. Is Jarrell Martin untradeable?
They were going to cut him, and then all of a sudden they pick up his option.
But what I'm saying is that, like, his value at $2.4 million, like, you wouldn't want to move that guy. You want to make.
But you got Davis and Rab right behind you, and you have Jermichael Green who's starting above you. The problem is he's the only real asset you have left.
Yeah, I put it wrong. I said untradeable. I said, would you be better off not moving him? Jermichael Green, wasn't that one of the ones where he was like kind of playing keep away with them all the way until November, and he finally signed a deal?
Yeah, that was. We don't know what to pay him, and there's going to be another team that's going to pay him more, and then nobody has money left. You two have to sort of work it out together. All right, I'll sign for $8 million.
I just remembered it. It was because they weren't sure they were going to be able to keep Tony Allen. And when they realized that Tony Allen was going to stick around, they just gave the rest of the money that they had left to Jermichael Green in his extension.
Yeah,
while the agent was playing hardball with him.
Yeah, he was playing hardball, and then he realized nobody was, it was a complete lie.
Yeah. Well, not only that, they were, Zebo left, and it's like, oh, well, the gig is up. So, I just don't have much about this team. Like, team stats, really nothing to write home about. They were 13th in points allowed, but they were like the slowest team. They were 28th in offense. Their defensive efficiency just sort of cratered compared to previous years. I mean, it's not a reboot because you still got Gasol and Conley and then you got the Chandler Parsons contract. So it's not like something where they can just flip the switch and start over, but you really got to hit big on this draft pick. That's the thing.
That's basically what it comes down to, is they need to do something. But here's the thing. They're trying to develop players. They're not tanking. That's the difference between tanking and then, look, we have these young guys. We need to know if they're going to be in the future. So tanking is just, we're just going to lose. Everybody's injured. This one is, let's put Rab out. Let's put Davis out. Let's see what they can do. And, there's no easy way out of the hole for them, but they have bodies, young bodies, which you could say about the other bottoming teams. They don't even have that much. So that's something, I guess.
Well, they're just, that top heavy with the salary is just so scary. Like, that's why a lot of people feel like Gasol might, he's talked about being unhappy. Maybe they'll let him go. Maybe they'll trade him.
Yeah, and then there you go. There's some money for something, and
then you're in reboot mode. Now you're starting over.
Maybe they did 2 years too late.
Yeah.
With the first pick in the 2013 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Anthony Bennett of Toronto, Canada, and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Anthony Bennett, after 1 year at UNLV, becomes the first player taken in the 2013 NBA Draft.
Reese, I need medical help.
The look of shock on your face.
Oh, my God.
And that wraps it up, and I'm exhausted. But it was a nice little healthy exercise and just going all around the league. We really wanted to do the listeners like a real service here, because we are going to be away for a little while. Adam Murray is going to be venturing the country. Which one are you going to? Are you going to Scandinavia? Are you going to Saskatchewan? Are you going to some other country that starts with the letter S?
I will be in Panama.
Oh, okay.
The exact opposite direction. But yeah, I will be gone.
Is that the one Van Halen used to sing about?
Yes, that is the Van Halen one.
The same Panama. Okay, not Panama City Beach, brother.
No, I will be in Panama, and we this is this multi-part series. This is finally the last one. Like I said, I've had more fun doing this one than I've had in a while. Because
that's really enjoyable. It's like the 4 years before that meant nothing.
But the 4 years before, like I say it in our intros, we just have to slog through it. It's like, okay, we're at 45 minutes. We need to start moving the pace.
Especially when you go through the bad teams, it can feel like an exercise. That's for sure.
And this one, we were able to bring up that last point. Like, what about this one? What about that player? As opposed to, all right, here we go, 5 minutes. We got to get through it. It was actually fun to actually do all the research that we do, which sadly we do. That. We were able to talk about things that we normally wouldn't be able to because of time constraint.
Yeah, I mean, we actually talked about like Kobe Simmons. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to talk about Kobe Simmons again on this show. And so what it is that basically, by the time you get to this, the NBA finals will probably be wrapped up, and you're getting ready for free agency and the NBA draft. We're not going to, very likely not going to be able to get to it like a solid, comprehensive preview, so we're just going to hit on the top 5 here. I'm just going to hit them with you really quick, and we'll just talk about it. Phoenix Suns at number 1. DeAndre Ayton worked out and said that he will definitely be a Sun. Do you think he'll definitely be a Sun?
You really have no... It seems like the easiest thing for them.
Yeah, but I mean that's a stupid thing. Like, remember when Markelle Fultz went to the Garden and everybody took pictures like, oh, here he is, he's getting used to his new surroundings, and he winds up going to the Sixers. It's
more of he aced his test where he says, I'm going to be number 1, period. If somebody trades for me, I'm number 1. I'm not going to slide down the chart. I have made it, so I know I aced my workout, so I know they can't pass on me.
Yeah,
they have to trade out. I'm going to be the number 1 pick.
So you go with Ayton.
Ayton, I'm a fan of Luka Doncic, and I think he would work well with...
if Ayton goes number 1, Doncic is absolutely going number 2 to Sacramento.
But for some reason, all the media is like, no, he's going to fall all of a sudden because he's going to go back to Europe because he's going to trade in his $3 million EuroLeague salary for he's going to pass by $7 million from the NBA.
Yeah, that's great. Why don't you posture with the Kings so that you can go down a grade and go to the Hawks where things are even more lifeless? That's really smart.
Like, people are like, I see some mock drafts that have him down like 7. It's like, no, do you not know how good he is to be an 18-year-old kid starting for Barcelona?
Number 3 with the Hawks, everyone's talking Marvin Bagley III. I'll just follow suit. It just seems like an easy in. With Memphis, I'm going to go with Mo Bamba. I think Mo Bamba's the guy. I think that wingspan is scaring the shit out of these GMs. They're like, I mean, I think it was like he was like, his standing reach was like 2 inches taller than Rudy Gobert's. Like, it was.
I'm going to disagree with you, but first I need to backtrack. I did realize my mistake. He played for Real Madrid, not Barcelona. I'm thinking I'm in soccer mode now.
You got Barca on the brain, yeah, with the World Cup and all.
I meant Real Madrid. I don't. That's a stupid mistake on my part. But Atlanta doesn't really have. You said Bagley, but the thing is, you have John Collins and you have, what's his name, Torian Green.
Torian Green.
Prince, I mean.
Torian Prince. I remember when Torian Green declared for the draft with Horford and Brewer and Noah. It was like, who the hell is he?
Everyone's like, what? you have those two, and that's the problem. You add him to it. Well, now you're just adding at the you want to do good, but you're going to do it at the expense of your other 2 players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that, but I know Dallas is hoping Bamba falls to them.
Yeah, and I think another one for Dallas. This one seems a little bit out there, but I think Michael Porter Jr. might wind up in Dallas.
Porter, I think I would go for Memphis. Would probably
at number 4, and then Bamba goes to
like
Dallas.
You have to hit I think you kind of have to hit a home run. You can't have a safe pick like Bamba, because what is his defensive prowess going to give to you? Nothing that's going to move the needle on offense. You need an explosive person.
What team in the lottery will take a point guard first? The point guards we're looking at, it's not the sexiest. You got Colin Sexton, Trae Young, Shea Alexander, the high schooler Anthony Simons, and Trayvon Duval and Aaron Holiday, Jalen Brunson. Not the greatest. Like who do you think will be the first one? Orlando, maybe Cleveland, because they have Boston's pick, which they got from.
Orlando needs a point guard desperately, but Trae Young, I don't know why people are so high on him. He's not good.
Well, then you take Colin Sexton.
He's also, you could trade down and get him.
That's true. So, I mean, do you think it's just going to be a glut of bigs and wings with Mikal and Miles Bridges? And because everyone's going to be talking about, which one do you like, Mikal or Miles? I like Mikal. I think Mikal fits perfectly in the NBA. I actually think, and I talked about this before in private with someone else, I hope Mikal Bridges goes to the Knicks. I've seen him play in the Garden with Villanova, and he looked pretty good.
I just don't see anything different. Also, Jaren Jackson, I don't see it either.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is weird, but his ceiling is very high. If he really maxes out, he'll be good.
I don't. It's all just these one-and-done players don't know how to play. They don't have fundamentals.
And then the two-guard spot after Doncic is a mess. I like Kyrie Thomas. He's come out after his junior year at Creighton. He's a good defensive player, but I'm not so sure about his offense. Lonnie Walker out of Miami, Gary Trent Jr., Zaire Smith from Texas Tech, Grayson Allen, who was had great athletic numbers in the combine. That is a huge drop-off from Luka Doncic. I'm just saying.
And all the Kentucky guys just look terrible this year.
Kevin Knox will get picked pretty high.
He get picked high, but he's falling. You have Shai
Gilgeous-Alexander.
He's riding up. It's just well, why? He's not.
He's a 6'6" point guard.
They're nothing special, and that's just the problem. Is you're just taking all these one and dones, and it's just literally throwing spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks.
The ones I like, the dark horses, just to throw them out there for people. Melvin Frazier at Tulane, local guy. Dante DiVincenzo, I think, is going to be a good player in the NBA. I'll just throw that out there, throw that little carrot out there, so that I can be completely wrong in about 2 or 3 years. But he looks like an NBA guard.
Well, if he becomes that J.R. Smith, that just a shooter,
and he's got game, man. He's got game.
There's nothing wrong with being an ice cold shooter.
And then outside of that, I mean, there's just a few interesting ones. Wendell Carter Jr., Mitchell Robinson, who came from Louisiana, but he didn't play because of the whole mess with Western Kentucky. We're finally going to get a look at him.
And then opted out of the everything and just weird.
Yeah. The weirdest one was LeGarrette Vick, who pulled his name out of the draft, but he's not going back to Kansas. So, it's what are you doing, man?
The problem is all these players are coming out now because they're well, I want that two-way contract. You look at Dang, Adele, and who are some other DJ Hogg, Alonzo Trier from Arizona, Hamidou Diallo. They're not going to
Shake Milton.
Yeah. You're coming out because it's just well, I could make it through the D League. You're not doing yourself a favor if just you want to get out so quick to take that Europe money. There's so many next year's draft was so weak. You're just putting your name in a
that has been sort of a topic of choice for the last couple of years because of the results from the U18s is that the next crop coming up in 2019, 2020 is not good at all.
Wenyen Gabriel, why?
That made no sense. I didn't understand. There was another one that that you were talking about, the guys that just you don't understand the decision really hurt. My LSU Tigers, Brandon Sampson, just decided to sign with an agent. We've said this before. For some of these guys, just school is not for them. They want to play ball, and if they have to do it in the G League or in Europe, they're going to do it. Mo Wagner, I can't blame him. That his stock was never going to be any higher.
No, he went back and he's basically where he's the same area now almost. It's Chimetse Medu, it's about the same as well. They're just they were borderline top second round picks, and you can't do anything. You're damned if you do, you're damned if. That's why Shake Milton's like, well, you're there, but you're there.
But for the lottery, Sixers got a pick, Cavs got a pick, the Clippers have 2 of them. There's a few interesting things there. And the Chicago Bulls, they got that 7th pick so that they can build off of Dunn and Markkanen and maybe Zach LaVine if they re-sign him. So we're going to see who's going to be part of that core, because I got a feeling that, Foreman and Paxson are going to really make an effort to get the right guy with that pick. So I will say this, for the players, not as deep as other years, but for the lottery, especially in that top 7.
Oh, the top 5 is high, but after that,
hit. The teams, they have to hit.
Which we'll get into in the summer when we get to our summer recap series. But basically, this is sort of a pivoting point for the NBA, because now nobody cares about any of these kids that are coming in, because they're one and done. We know none of them can really play. The odds of any of them providing, meaningful minutes, there might be a few at the top. But then, what do you expect from your 20th pick, who's a freshman? Good luck. You're doing a year in the G League.
And not only that, you got a lot of these ones that are going to be imported from the G League that are going to be coming from high school and just playing the year, like Darius Baisley. I'm not saying that he's like a trendsetter. It's just that you might see a couple more of situations like that. And let's be honest, by the time we get to 2019 or 2020, they might ditch one and done, period. And then we're just back to high school to pro.
They might ditch one and done. And don't forget, first round picks are 2 years and then the team option. So they could just be like, all right, I'm going to get you for 2 years.
Well, it's also agent driven, because you want to get to that second contract at the earliest age possible. So
you do, but if you're not getting on the court and you're just a development kid, look at all the freshmen. Look at we mentioned Diamond Stone, we mentioned Steven Zimmerman, we mentioned all these freshmen.
LeBrian Nash, James Michael McAdoo. Like, there are these guys that they come out of high school hot shit, and then you go to college and you're like, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah, you thought you were a first-round talent. You fell to the second round, and all of a sudden you're buried at the end of the bench. Now you're looking for your second contract because your agent told you you're going to make millions. All of a sudden now you're in the G League, hoping you come back. It's for a lot of these kids. It's I don't know what they were thinking, but more power to them. They've hopefully thought it through, and hopefully they all do good. I don't know.
Long story short, not the greatest draft. Top heavy with Ayton and Doncic and a couple of the big guys. Point guard, not so fresh. Guard spot's awful after Doncic. But those teams in the lottery, there's a lot at stake. I will say that. Because for a lot of these teams like Cleveland, maybe even New York, Memphis, they're not going to get another shot at these picks. They got to get it right this year.
Well, that's what they get paid millions to do, to scout these kids, right?
Yeah, and that's going to wrap up that pretty much the end of the draft preview for people. A little bit of an appetizer for you once we get to the draft, and that's kind of wrap it up. So, are you gonna be waving goodbye to me from the plane?
I'll see you. We'll enjoy your summer break. We'll reconvene in a while.
Okay, all right. While the Warriors continue to win and win and win and win.